Ray McMillan loves playing the violin more than anything, and nothing will stop him from pursuing his dream of becoming a professional musician. Not his mother, who thinks he should get a real job, not the fact that he can't afford a high caliber violin, not the racism inherent in the classical music world. And when he makes the startling discovery that his great grandfather's fiddle is actually a priceless Stradivarius, his star begins to rise. Then, with the International Tchaikovsky competition, the Olympics of classical music, fast approaching, his prized family heirloom is stolen. Ray is determined to get it back. But now his family and the descendants of the men who once enslaved Ray's great-grandfather are each claiming that the violin belongs to them. With the odds stacked against him and the pressure mounting, will Ray ever see his beloved violin again? All right, welcome back to BLK Girl Reads. How's everybody?
Good.
Everybody meaning you and me, Joy.
It's just us. I miss just us.
Since it's just you and me, let's jump right into ratings. What did you think about it?
This one's hard to rate. I'm gonna
I'll
give
go
it.
first if you want.
Yeah, you go first. You go first.
Okay, so I'm gonna rate this one at 3.5, and I'm not gonna rate it a 4 because it wasn't my favorite book. But I do think it was really well written. I felt a lot of emotions throughout it. And that's all I'm going to say without getting into spoilers. So, Joy, what do you think?
I'm giving it 2. I feel like when I saw that it was a thriller, I expected to be more thrilled, and I was more just traumatized and annoyed that it was called a thriller. So, yeah.
I
So
can see
that's
that.
me without my spoilers. No spoiler-free rating reason.
So you didn't feel like it fit the genre.
Yeah.
I would actually agree with that.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's just jump right into it. So spoilers from here on out. If you haven't read it and you want to read it before you hear them, then click off and come back. All right. So I would agree with your assessment about it kind of not being a thriller. I have never really done thrillers where no one dies.
Yeah.
Normally I'm used to them trying to figure out a murder, which maybe means that I need to read more thrillers, I guess. Do you read thrillers a lot, by the way?
I read a lot of books that's like horror/thriller, but it's usually horror. It's like interchangeable sometimes. But if it's not a supernatural or mystery, technically it's a mystery and technically someone died in the book, but I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah. Which actually is feedback we've gotten on our book list quite a bit. So just in case you're listening and you don't know, we do have a book club book list with 200 plus books written by Black authors in all sorts of genre that you can get for free if you go to blackgirlreads.com and sign up. blackgirlreads.com. But some feedback that we've gotten on our book list is that we don't have a lot of thrillers. And I think that's because the books that I normally read and the books that Joy, I guess, too, normally reads are mystery/thriller or horror/thriller. I don't normally read a book that's just normally thriller. So yeah, I'm normally when I'm reading it, it's solving a mystery, solving a murder, something like this. In the case of solving for a missing violin, or just a stolen object, I guess I'm not used to that. It seemed like more bank robbery kind of feel, like an Ocean's 11 vibe, like a heist.
Yeah.
Almost, rather than I would consider a thriller. What was thrilling about it? I don't think, other than his blood pressure going up because he lost something priceless.
And mine. I don't know. Overall, I feel like the only character that was very developed was the main character, Ray. But I feel like everyone else was very generic, a little bit cartoonish to how horrible they were. And then I feel like the wrap up at the end with the violin when he found it was very easy. And I'm just I thought we were on the same page from chapter 1. It was the girl. So yeah.
I didn't guess it from chapter 1. So I did guess the ending. And I'll tell you exactly in the book where I suspected it and then when I knew for sure.
Okay.
So when they first started the book, they started in the middle, right? Right when it was happening. And to me, it seemed like they had a very established relationship. So I was like, okay, I'm not suspecting her right off the bat. They seem close. And then once they got into the past and I didn't see her and I didn't see her and I didn't see her, I'm like, okay, it doesn't seem like they've been together for that long. So now I am kind of suspecting her. Like she's on the suspect list now too.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he actually met her in the story and he had zero game, like she walked him through that whole like lunch. She walked him through like inviting her to stay. And I'm like, do you really think this like hot girl that you keep talking about you can't like take your mind off of? This is all just falling into place for you. You don't have to put in any effort. You just sit there like an idiot with your mouth open and it just works out. Like she is playing you. I mean, it don't work like that.
You're completely right. I was just like, are you serious? Like, you're not suspecting her? He was dickmatized. Like, what was it? Vagimatized. Like,
girl, what?
Vagimatized. Hypnotized.
I'm gonna need you to figure out what you're trying to say and say it because that can't be what you were trying to say.
It was a new word. I don't know. He just seemed like he was very knowledgeable. You don't get people like very knowledgeable about certain things and then very stupid about other things. He wasn't very street smart at all. Like every time he had a situation come up about with race, he was an idiot. I was just like, what? Like, why are you so confused right now?
Why do you know?
The only
give me some examples. What are you talking about?
So the only one I'm gonna give him a pass on when it's concerning race and he was kind of confused was when he had his first gig at the wedding. And the father was like, you can't come in here. We don't want you in here. You almost ruined my daughter's wedding. He's like, what? What's going on? I'm supposed to be, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, 15, 16 years old, I'll give you a pass. But it's just like, when he went on to just like constantly having certain situations happening to him, I'm really mad that I can't think of the other ones right now because eventually he started to speak up to other people saying like, good thing it wasn't a charity case that, I was able to come here and I actually have talent. Like he said, stuck up to himself like at least one time. Just about once or twice.
I feel like he did really well. Like I'm thinking of, okay, so let's go through the situations and we can like kind of figure out, like parse out what you think was bad and what, because I feel like he did pretty well. The one I'm thinking of is the one in Baton Rouge where immediately the cop told him to get out of the car and like put a gun in his face. So obviously nothing could have been done. But the fact that he like spoke up for himself, like when he had the press conference without actually being quote unquote confrontational, I thought he handled really well. And especially since his tutor at the time, like the douchebag that told him to give out roses, told him that he shouldn't have said anything and he should have just apologized for not showing up. I know. I'm glad that he spoke up for himself and I'm glad that he fired him at that point. So I think he handled that pretty well. And then I'm thinking about the time where they were asking him to play music and they picked a Black composer and kept saying, I thought you would be interested in this. And in his mind, I think he was a little confused because he said, yeah, I love that composer. Like, how did you know? And they kept saying, oh, well, I think, just you are probably interested in this. And they wouldn't say it. And he said that he was genuinely thinking, like, did I say this in an interview? Like, how do they know? And then he like got it. And then he was sarcastic and was like, I'm not going to play for you. Like, you just missed your opportunity. Again, I felt like he handled well. I can't think of any instances where I feel like maybe he, like, even the one where the couple, okay, so this is one I didn't feel like he handled well, but he said this himself. When the couple, the Martins, showed up at his house and like pushed their way in, that one I feel like he was very naive on, but I don't even think that was a race thing until they started talking about the letter. Like that was just naive. Like, why would you let random strangers into your house?
Yeah, even opening your door in the first place. In the middle of the night.
Well, he wasn't opening the door. Remember, I think he was coming home. And I might have misheard that. So tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he was coming home and they like accosted him. No, he opened the door?
Yeah, he opened his door and he was talking to them and they were like, oh, my niece. And he's like, oh, do you want to take lessons? And he opened the door and they kind of like strolled in. He's like, oh, I guess this is okay, And that's when everything went down. And then when he finally opened the door back up to let them out, they weren't trying to leave.
Well, I don't think he ever closed the door, to be honest
then, like,
with you.
But... Oh, I know which one. I know which one bothered me.
Okay.
The one No, when he was on the street and he finally got mad when the marks came back and was like messing with him about the violin again. He got pissed off about it. And I was like, I don't know about this. You're in Brooklyn, man. You're a black guy. Like, get it together, you know? Like, you're so patient in every other instance, you know? I don't know. Maybe he just reached his point.
I feel like it was justified, to be honest with you. I feel like
Yeah.
it was bullshit that they like cuffed him and like didn't make the
Yeah.
other people show their idea. And you know, like I do agree, like it could have been handled better,
Hmm.
but I'm not gonna judge you after like they've been stalking you and like telling you like I don't. I feel like it's one of those situations, you know, where like he had enough.
Yeah.
But going back, I agree with you that I feel like his character was the only one that actually developed, and I can't tell if that was like a conscious effort on the author's part because his family was shitty from the start. I absolutely hated that he was paying them money at all. The aunt, I guess, at the very beginning had a little bit of character development. Rochelle,
Hmm.
because she didn't talk to him at all, and then they started to like kind of establish a relationship. So no, I guess to your point, that isn't necessarily character development. It's just him getting to know her, which he hadn't
Hmm.
before. Um,
Right. Because she could have been
but I
like that
do
the
feel
whole
like he
time.
grew quite a bit. What'd you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I said she could have been like that the whole time. Like, he just got to know her. You're right.
Yeah.
It pissed me off that he kept
Um.
paying them. And then oh
Mhm.
my gosh, can we get into who we hate the most?
Who did you hate the most?
His mom.
His mom was awful.
His mom fucking sucked. It was just one of those things. It's just like, you can't be this stupid, you know? You can't be this uneducated. You're telling your son, who's like doing so well in music and doing well in school, telling him to get his GED to work at Popeyes to bring some money into the house. And who's gonna pay these bills? I'm not your husband. You know, like, why am I like, this has nothing to do with me. Figure it out, bitch. Like, what's happening? So, and then like every time he was excited and wanted to show her something because he's a kid and he wants to make his mother happy, she just like, I don't give a fuck, you know? Like, she never cared. And then when he was like, oh, well, she always knew when he was had another gig set up because she was like, oh, you forgot about us? Where's our money? You know, she just pissed me off the whole book.
So
I'm
let's
like,
get
her,
into
kill
that a
her
little
off.
bit for like the people who didn't read the book. So what Joy is talking about is he was sending the family money
Mhm.
after every concert because they claimed that this violin belonged to them, even though the grandmother gave the violin to him and said, like, this is something like none of you guys took lessons when me and your dad wanted you to, so you can't have it. Like, I'm giving it to him. And it's something they didn't care about. Like, even when he was looking for it up in the attic for his grandmother, they kept telling him that it was a waste of time and who cares about that fiddle. And I'm mad because you're up there for no reason. And that's something I wanted to say too when you were talking is that there's a difference between being dumb and being selfish. And I feel like that mother was fucking selfish. Like,
Mhm.
I think she knew exactly what she was doing and she didn't care. Like, all those things that she said didn't like lead me to believe that she was uneducated. It led me to believe that she was an awful mother to him specifically because
Why
she
not
didn't have a
both?
lot in common with him. But yeah, I just didn't see any evidence that led to her being uneducated necessarily, just mean and selfish.
Mm.
So that's why I say that. But yeah, he was giving them money and he said that the family was constantly texting him and contacting him for more money. And while the mother did not do that, she didn't text him or communicate with him at all. And she would look out for his concert schedule. And if he didn't pay them immediately after, she would text and say, "Did you forget about us?" And that's all the contact that she had with him, which is, I think, the most despicable thing that I've ever heard of. And I feel like if they did give some kind of indication that she was uneducated or dumb, I would be even a little bit more forgiving, I think. But there was no like indication, at least that I saw, that she just didn't understand. I feel like she understood and she didn't care. Even to the point where she finally came to one of his concerts and brought flowers. Because that's something he mentioned in the book earlier, that everybody else had flowers after a performance. He never did. And wanting to give her the benefit of the doubt, just figured maybe she doesn't know that this is something that people do. But she obviously knew because when she wanted something, she showed up and she had flowers. So yeah, it was unforgivable, honestly.
Yeah, she's very manipulative. When like she knew that he wanted her affection and wanted her to be there. And that's when like the bigger checks started coming and everything too. Which he made it even worse when they sued him. He's been paying them for years. He don't have his own savings or anything because he was helping them out.
The fact that when he showed up before they did the blast of the past and went to go talk to the mother, and she said, "Well, you haven't sent any checks in a while. Like, what do you think I'm supposed to do?" And I'm thinking, why would you just not send her money? I didn't know the situation at the time, but like, if someone's expecting money from you, like, you don't just like cut it off without telling them. But then to find out that she was actively suing him when this happened. Like, why would he continue to send you money if you're actively suing him, your own son? So, yeah, completely awful.
And then the uncle that kept calling like, "Oh, well, this get rich quick scheme, and I need $20,000 to buy kitchen equipment so I can do a restaurant and blah blah." And then like they would just be playing in his face constantly, and I'm just like, "Why are you? What? Cut them off! Cut them off!" You know. Man, they're the worst family ever. Mine is the grandmother. Mine is Aunt Rochelle.
Oh, yeah, Rochelle and the grandmother seem pretty cool. I do want to dig into the uncle too, because he called him after he visited his mom and said that he threatened her and said that he grew up to be a piece of shit, which is insane to me because now with finishing the book and having context, the last time he talked to his uncle is when he was calling him asking him for $20,000. And right before that, they got on the phone and he said, "Hey, how are you doing? I just sent you the new paycheck." And he was like, "Yeah, thanks for everything you're doing. Anyway, I also need $20,000 for this and I need an answer now." And after he said, "I can't do it," he tried to make him take a loan out on the violin or against the violin. He got off the phone, still cool with him, sent his girlfriend over to his concert to try to borrow money for something for her. Like, how are you? Yeah. Like, this guy is trying to like make a living. He's giving you money. You're asking him for more money and sending your girlfriend to ask him for money. And then you tell him that he grew up to be a piece of shit. Excuse me? Like, are you looking in the mirror at all?
Yeah, he pisses me off. He sucks. They all suck. I don't understand how you can have such a good mother, like the grandmother was, and just have shit kids. All of them. They all suck so bad. And even when he came to the settlement with them, I was like, that's way too much for them. They don't deserve anything. The grandmother gave it to you for Christmas because they had no interest in it. They didn't look for it. Hell, Roy didn't even find it. The grandmother found it. So, they all suck.
So you said, so I told you when I started suspecting, and I know we like kind of diverted from there. But I told you when I kind of suspected the girlfriend. When did you start to suspect her? Because it seems like you suspected her before the end.
Literally the beginning. Like, it didn't make any sense.
What made you suspect her?
So, when I first started the book, I thought, because the way that it was like, oh, what if I did it this way? What if I roared on the left arm instead of the right arm? What if they opened it to check it at the airport? I was like, okay, so something's going on with like his normal routine. I was like, is he cheating on his wife? Is this girl and he's cheating with, like a mistress? That's what I was thinking. I thought that
Why
was
did you think that?
I don't know. That was just the first thing that came to mind. I was like, oh, you're in a hotel with a lady and you're like leaving. You guys are leaving each other and you're going back home. I just figured that, oh, you were cheating on your wife with this girl. And so I was like, oh, okay. So he probably got caught or something. Yeah. Okay, I see what the third was happening. And then maybe the girl winds up dead and the wife is trying to blame it on him. I seriously thought that this book was going to go completely different. That first scene.
I see.
Yeah, so when he said the violin was missing, I was like, oh, that bitch did it. Like, that girl he was sleeping with at the very beginning. Like, why would you leave your priceless violin with this girl that you were just sleeping with, with your wife?
Being like so intimate and like established. Like they had routines around each other, and they were talking about next time they would see each other.
Mhm.
Like they seemed like they had their own routine. So I didn't suspect any of that.
Did you
You
think?
know, like it's
Well, my thing was
Mhm.
like he found someone that he played with, and they probably did a concert together, and that's how they hooked up. But his wife was like someone that's not in the musical scene or anything. So he got like, oh,
Why
okay,
are you
this
assuming
girl's
this
right
man
here,
is
like this first
married?
vibe. That was my whole spiel of the first chapter, and I thought she took it. So
That's so interesting to me. Yeah, I didn't think any of that. Whew. Let's unpack why you jumped to that. So okay, you thought from the very beginning because you thought that he was cheating. So you figured out that she was the person because you misunderstood the relationship. That's so funny. And you still suspected her after you figured out that he wasn't married and that they've been dating.
That's the only thing that still made
Did you
sense.
ever suspect anyone else throughout the book? I guess is what I'm asking.
I mean, for me, it made sense that it was her either way, just because no one else would be in the room. They said that one woman that moved on to Bolivia or Honduras, that she paid
Honduras, yeah.
off. Yeah, I was like, okay, it could have been her or Nicole. Like he said, he put his violin down for a second to hug her. So unless there was someone on the street and they ran off, like it didn't make any sense at all. So I was like, it has to be her because they never followed up with the woman from Honduras. So I think it was like too like the whole story in between. People forget like, oh, that one those couple of details, like it doesn't make any sense that you never followed up on it.
Followed up on what?
The woman from Honduras. They said that they're like see what happened to her and where she went and ICE and things like that, but they never said anything else about it because we went back in time to talk about his story leading up to that point, and then past that point. And the only time we heard about it again is when Nicole was like, "Oh yeah, I paid her off to leave."
That's not true. Like I don't remember if it was before the flashback or after, but I know they spent quite a bit of time like going to and following up on her, and they were sending updates. Like that detective, Natalie, I think it was. I don't remember. Or Isabel. Whatever that girl's name. Alicia.
The nice lady
That's
cop.
what it was.
Alicia.
Alicia. She was in Honduras for quite a bit, like looking into her and like following up and sending updates. She actually flew there, so yeah, there were definitely updates from that.
I don't know. Maybe I took a
Yeah,
cat
I was
nap
like
during that
tuned
part.
in, like, okay, now where is she? What happened? I thought it was a little suspicious when she came back and was like, yeah, I couldn't get anything out of her. She said that she just went home, and I was like, that's all the investigating you're gonna do, like after a while. But there were a couple of chapters. First, when she said she was going there, then a whole section where she was sending updates, and then when she came home and said that it was a dead end and she couldn't get anything. But yeah, there was quite a bit of follow up there. And I also thought it was a little bit phony that she like said that she paid her off at the end, but when they were questioning her, she couldn't get her story right. Like she was like, "Yeah, I was looking for his wallet.
Yeah.
It could have been like 30 seconds. Well, maybe 5 minutes. No more than 2. I don't know." And like she was so bad at it that I immediately stopped suspecting her. Like, no, she didn't prepare any of this.
Well, I thought she was
like,
just a
how is
bad
it that
liar.
she could think ahead to look into like calling the illegal immigration people ICE?
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Yeah, you can call them and like figure out like whose immigration is up to date and do all this stuff, but you couldn't think to get your story straight.
She probably did it on purpose to make it seem like she was like nervous. Yeah, like I don't know, like or panicked. Like I know, like
or she fooled me.
Like I'm nervous to talk about it. Like I'm sure, like it wasn't just a couple of seconds or a couple minutes. I'm sure, And then the way that he was saying that her body language, like she was getting closer and closer, like trying to convince them, like she was actually nervous, and then she backed up when she realized what she was doing. So I read it as her playing as she's being nervous, talking to like the FBI pretty much. So.
You didn't comment on all when I said that he like had no game.
I agree with you. I was like, yeah, that's true.
I just thought that was like So suspicious.
Yeah.
Like, he's sitting there like, oh, hi. Yeah, so my name's Nicole. Like, oh yeah, I'm Ray. Oh, you know I'm Ray. Oh, so do you want to take me to dinner?
I was really nervous for him too. Like, why wouldn't you just like rent a locker every time, like a safety deposit box or something? Every time you went somewhere for that violin, you're carrying a $5 million violin around everywhere you go. You know, that thing should have been under lock and key. Even when he let those people into his house, the Marxists, that shouldn't have been in his house. He could have been robbed at any time if they found you that easily. You know, it's just he didn't make a lot of sense to me when it came to having a violin that expensive in his possession. You know.
Yeah. I think it was a compelling story though. Like, had I not been expecting a thriller, I still don't know if I would want to like read a story about a Stradivarius, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What was the violin called? A Stradivarius, right?
Something like that, girl.
A Stradivarius. Sorry. I still don't know if I would want to read a story about an expensive violin, but the part that I really did engage with him on was just like his passion for music. Like, it made me want to go and like paint something, because I lose my motivation to paint so often. Which is probably like not a great thing to say. I mean, no, whatever. I feel like every artist like has periods where they're not motivated. As much as I don't want to admit that that's me, that's definitely me. Like, it made me want to go and create something just because he was so passionate about it. So that part I really enjoyed. I love that he like persevered through all of his like obstacles, including his family, including not having money. Like, he always figured out a way to like do what he wanted to do, which I thought was great. I love that part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're a music lover or like even into music and knew what a Stradivarius was before you read this book, I feel like it would be a lot more up your alley. But yeah, I just didn't care about the violin. Once he said he was like kicking ass in the competition without it, I'm like, why are you even playing with it? I know why you're playing with it because it sounds great, but seriously, if it were me, because I know nothing and I'm ignorant, I would have it in a vault or a safety deposit box and like play with the normal violin.
Because that's what makes it. And then bring it out on the biggest competitions or when you go to Carnegie Hall or something like that. You know, that it should be treated as a timepiece, you know, something special, not something for every day. And definitely shouldn't be in your house.
And let me tell you something else. When he was in Boston, I think it was, and those cops like tried to make him open it when it was snowing on the sidewalk. He was like, Brooklyn. Are you sure? Because this is a Brooklyn. Okay. Yeah. He was like, this is a $10 million violin. Do you want that lawsuit coming? And they still made him open it inside and like could have took it from him. Like, first of all, I would have went ahead with that lawsuit. That one and the one from
Baton Rouge.
It was Louisiana, Baton Rouge. Yeah. I would have filed a lawsuit against both of those cities, to be honest with you. And the fact that I have a $10 million violin and you just lost business for your city, like, I feel like that gave him credibility. Like, he could have done it. But the fact that those cops, had he not opened his violin, could have taken it from him and gave it to the Marks. I thought it was the Martins, whatever, the racist white family. Just goes to show you should not be carrying this thing around. And I get it too. Like, if that's a violin that you're going to use, then you have to practice with it. But it just seems so not safe.
It was not safe. It was no reason to use it. Like you said, he's talented on his own. He didn't have to use it.
Oh, it was an heirloom. I can see like the sentimentality behind it, but it had to be a better way.
It was an heirloom, which is why you pull it out for the Russian competition or Carnegie Hall.
Well, that's the thing though. Like with athletes and musicians, you have to practice with the instrument you're going to play on. You know, you can't just switch them in and out. You have to get used to it, which is why when he was looking for a replacement, he was freaking out because it was so close to the competition. He had to get used to a new one. So again, while I understand it, I just feel like myself, I wouldn't want to take that risk.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like after Baton Rouge. Deal. Especially after, honestly, after when the racist white family came into his house and the violin was there too. like, oh, this gotta have a safe space, you know? And then having that cop in Baton Rouge drop it in the case. All that stuff. So I was like, there's a lot of times you just go like, I'm going ahead and put this away in storage.
Yeah, but I guess like the reason why it was important to him, why he didn't want to sell it in the first place, is because he said his grandmother wanted him to play on it. Like he's not selling his violin.
Yeah.
Another thing I don't understand, but I didn't really look up, and I probably should have, I'm going to now, is what is the difference between a violin and a fiddle? Like I don't understand why they kept going back and forth like it was interchangeable.
I think they're the same thing, aren't they?
Oh. Yeah, it says there isn't a difference between a fiddle and a violin, at least not physically. The difference between a fiddle and a violin is simply the style of music they are used to play. So, yeah I guess it's the same. I never knew that.
They're literally the same thing. Because, I learned that from Futurama when the demon robot.
The devil?
Yeah. He always played on his fiddle. And I think Fryer was like, well, I have this violin, so I thought I'll tell you about
that. Would have been me.
Yeah. But no, yeah, it's the exact same thing.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I was so confused throughout the book. Like, is it a fiddle? Like, did they do something in the repairs to make it a violin? Like, is it just different strings? No. Like, what's happening?
Was it Malcolm in the Middle when he joined like the country little band? It was a show. Something with a show that had a violin and they called it a fiddle. Like, no, it was a fiddle. It's gonna bother me. It's something like that happened.
I am so confused as to why you even brought it up. Wait, you said it's some show where he joined a country band and they called it a fiddle.
Yeah, but he played the violin. He's like, no, it's a fiddle.
Oh, please look it up because I'm so confused. The only thing I can think of while with music and Malcolm in the Middle is when the dad joined that a cappella group.
That was amazing. No, you know what it was? It was when he was doing the fast walking thing in the park.
Oh, the speed walking. Yeah. That's the episode?
I don't know if that's right. No, I know it's not. I was just saying how much I like how.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so here's a question for you.
Okay.
Were there any recurring motives or symbols that stood out to you during the book? I can take it first if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
So the one thing that stood out to me was like this selfishness of everyone. Like that seemed very recurring when it came to every single one of his family members, when it came to the girlfriend, when it came to, who was it? The guy he was playing against, the guy who eventually won the Tchaikovsky. He had a whole, like his family had a whole like violin that was in the black market that they decided to sell just so that he could drop out of the competition and like get distracted. Like, even though it wasn't his violin, like everybody had a selfish motive, it seemed like, except for him when it came to even the violin, or the fiddle. When he was looking for it up in the attic, he said he wanted it to give to his grandmother. Like everybody, I hated that. Like after he was up there for more than a day, there was like, you can't have it, right? Even if you wanted it, like after mom dies, we're all going to figure out what we're going to do with everything. Like you just told him to stop looking for it because it's trash and no one cares about it, and like making fun of your grandmother or mother in that case because she keeps talking about it, and you're telling him he can't have it even though he didn't even ask for it. Like just the fact that they assumed that he was also being selfish in his motives, Him and Janice, I feel like his like mentor, were the only ones in the book that seemed to have motives that were not selfish. So that was also interesting. And one of the best moments in this book for me was when he was talking about how he couldn't get Nicole out of his mind and he just missed her so much, and how she asked him to write a letter for him or for her to get leniency from the judge.
Oh, yeah.
He started writing the letter, and I'm like, I can't believe you're doing this. And he went on with the letter like, she is the most selfish person I've ever met. She manipulated me for months, and she's heartless. And I want you to give her the full sentence.
Yup. That was perfect. I was like, you
I'm
better
like,
not be writing this daggone
yeah.
letter.
Like, good job, for real. Like, he was sitting here so sad boy and still like really stuck it to her, which
Yeah.
I liked quite
When
a
it
bit.
counted.
Yeah.
I think for me, when it came to the whole respect, even when you're being disrespected, it kind of annoyed me a little bit. I didn't care
Girl,
for
when
it. So every time he had a racist encounter, he was trying, like, we all know you have to be a certain level of like respectful just so you don't get killed. But I feel like when it came to like the slave story where it was like, oh yeah, they drawn and quartered your dad and set him on fire, your mom is in the field, and the only reason that your master set you free is because you're a good player for him on the fiddle or whatever. And he's like, oh, and I earned it because I was respectful the whole time, no matter what he did to my family, no matter how evil he was. I was like, what? You're telling this to your 6-year-old to write down because she had an argument with her mother? Like, what trauma is happening here? No, that's not a lesson to be learned. No.
fuck yeah, like you're pretty much teaching them to let people walk all over you,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Which
Absolutely.
is, I feel like the whole reason why Martin Luther King was such a person that like people bring up to try to like get black people to not speak up for themselves. Like, what about turning the other cheek? We're done with that. Like, if you say something disrespectful to me, then expect that back. Now, I'm not saying that I'm always gonna like pop you in the face, though that may happen. So watch out. But don't expect respect if you're being disrespectful. Period.
Right. Exactly. And even, I don't know, like this book, I will say it was a well written book, even though it wasn't necessarily like something that I would normally pick out. It was just very triggering for me. I had to take breaks while reading it. It was just like racism after like trauma and trauma, like the cops constantly going against him and the white family going against him. Inwards here. Oh, and when if in the first chapter when he was like, "Oh, everyone's gonna think that's why this N word shouldn't have something so expensive or something." I was like, whoa, so we're just going there, I guess. And that should have been my thing. I should have known where we're going. You know?
That was very like out of the blue.
It
For me
was.
too.
So I was just like, I feel like this book is putting me like in a funk a little bit. Like I'm not caring for it at all.
Let me tell you, when they came in my house and read that racist letter, she had the nerve to pause before she said like nigger and said it anyway multiple times.
Twice.
That would have been the end for me. I would have closed that door, locked it, and started swinging the fucking limb. Like, you want to come into my house uninvited and start like disrespecting me like this? I'm just defending myself. Like, I am defending myself against you right now. And they probably wouldn't have had that lawsuit because they would have knew.
My thing is too, it's just like that story didn't even say anything about the fiddle itself. It's just like, oh yeah, we owned your family, and also they had a fiddle that we used to play. That didn't say anything that was about it was yours at all. And my whole thing was like, why wouldn't anyone ever say like, hey, you owned somebody in their family, killed them, beat them, raped them? Just let them have the fucking fiddle.
Let it go. Like, you didn't have this before. There's literally nothing changed about your life. I couldn't believe they were actually like playing
on the Anderson Cooper saying like, oh yeah, this is ours and we're gonna get it back because our grandpappy, had owned them. They took our shit when, during the revolution or whatever. Stuff like, isn't that a bad look for you guys? A horrible look, actually. So, and on top of that, I'm like, you know what? I'm glad you bring this up about the fiddle. I want reparations. Where's my part? Where's my house that my family built for you? Where's my money at? I know exactly where I'm from. Come on.
Seriously, like, if that's all it takes, like, we about to reclaim a lot of stuff.
We're talking about money. Let's talk about it.
Really owes to who? Like,
right. This will be the first check,
I now
sir,
know
that you're handing me of $200,000. Get used to it.
Like, just the insanity. Like, stop it, please.
I could have pictured you beating them up in your house, taking the check, and then kicking them out. I want the next one in 6 months, bitch.
I wouldn't have took the check, but let me tell you, I would have beat the shit out of them until they couldn't move and then called the police. Like, yeah, I just I had to defend myself in my home against some intruders that refused to leave. Please come and collect the trash.
Lucky you were in Texas, bitch. You know, the
Maybe
only
that's
thing
the Texas in me, yeah.
What's that Beyonce song? My daddy said shoot.
Daddy lessons, yeah.
But the only thing that kind of got me through any scene with the Marks or the Martins, whatever their name was that I pictured them as Nigel Thornberry and his wife.
Did you really?
She
confused me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What? What confused you?
I missed what you said. I'm sorry.
No, I said, what confused you?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the Wild Thornberries.
Oh, no, I was going to say, because he mentioned his mustache and his big belly, and I was like, oh, that seemed like Nigel Thornberry, yeah.
That's so funny. And you know what? They weren't even a married couple. They were brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what confused me is when they first introduced them and they said their names, I thought they were a black couple. Like, what white couple do you know are named Dante and Andrea?
So I'm from the South.
I guess so. When they said Dante and Andrea, I'm like, okay, what's this? And that's why it made sense that he was like, oh, does your niece like need lessons? Because that's something that we do in the Black community. Like, for better or for worse, like, people feel like they can ask you for personal favors when you're Black. Like, I'm glad that we kind of look out for each other, but I do feel like people are also like feel entitled to your help sometimes. So
it's a delicate balance. The money too. Act. That's what a lot of people say when they make it out of the hood. They always reach back and try to help, and that's why they kind of not suffer, but struggle.
They don't grow a little bit as fast. Yeah,
they definitely struggle trying to bring the hood up with them. And not saying it's a bad thing to try to reach back and help, but you also have to know your limitations. And I don't think Ray knew that either. He didn't have a limitation.
That's true. And again, I feel like it's a good thing to reach back and help. But when somebody that you don't know is asking you for personal favors just because they also happen to be Black is where I feel like that line is crossed, you know?
And it's different than when he was at the competition and he offered the extra help to that one Black kid who the other judges didn't give a chance to. Like,
and I'm so glad he told him off about that too. That's another situation where I feel like he did very well. Like, he let them talk themselves into a corner, and then like right when they were going to be like, and you showed him favoritism, like cut it off. Like, no, like they didn't give him a chance immediately because they didn't like that kid didn't have the same equipment and because he looked different. So don't tell me about who I'm giving special treatment to. I'm here as a favor to you, and don't you ever ask me for this favor again. Goodbye.
Like, when they were like, oh, he don't even have an accompaniment. And I'm like, he don't need one, bitch. Like, he got it. Like, I was so offended. So
the fact that he like just gave him a fair shot during the audition, and as soon as he left the stage, the other judges were mad. Like, if you give him a shot, you're taking the opportunity away from someone else. Like, literally all I did so far was give him encouragement. How is that hurting anybody else? Like, you're seriously sitting here mad because I told him good job and like didn't like put him down. Get over yourself. Like, there was so much like snottiness and elitism in this book. It like I hated it. Nauseous.
Yeah. It was horrible. And it's one of those things where you're like, you know, it was interesting to see the musical scene in racism. Even though it was kind of a lot, but you forget that when you enter these really old established institutions like that, like you're right, there's only 1% people of color and even less of someone that's just Black. Like, I'm sure the same thing if it was a ballet, you know? So
it's like stepping back at least 50 years in the civil rights movement.
Like, was it the ballet? I follow ballet a lot. I don't know if you knew that or not, but TikTok, I learn a lot of stuff on TikTok. So when they're the brown, like, the skin tone shoes, those are pretty new still. Like, I want to say the last 10, 15 years, maybe, that they came in different colors other than just like pink. And then the girls would have to dye them to make them their skin color, to make it look more cohesive. So
I'm not surprised. We just got Band-Aids as if we don't get hurt.
I was just telling my husband that. I was like, I feel like I'm getting ripped off by Band-Aid right now because I have to get my skin color and your skin color. So I'm already buying twice as much. And I make less than anybody around here.
Just come in a range. Yeah. Every time you buy a pack of Band-Aids, I feel like it should be arranged so everybody gets screwed over at least a little bit.
I gave up. I just started getting bluey Band-Aids and call it a day.
I myself like to use some cotton and tape.
I just put a little piece of tissue there and it sticks by itself. Yeah, that's a struggle,
other than
girl.
that, I just, try not to get hurt.
It's America. I can't afford it.
I'm looking it up now to see if any Black people have actually won this competition.
The Russian
the Tchaikovsky competition.
Man, speaking of Russians, that guy that he hired to help him out and stand out, I was like, what are you doing? What is happening here?
It says there was an American pianist who won in 1958.
And they're Black?
No.
Ah.
At least by this name, I assume not. Harvey Lavin Van Silborn.
I would guess not.
Van Cleborn, I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever. So I guess no Black winner, so this is a fiction, but hopefully soon.
Yeah. Technically, he wasn't even a winner. He was in second, so.
True. Sure. He was a finalist. I think they say he was the first silver medalist, American and Black. So,
yeah. So my question is, now that you know that this kind of even though this is fiction, there has to be a scene of Black people in music and orchestra, opera, obviously the ballet. But did it want you to look into it more, or maybe go to a concert maybe and get a little bit of culture? Old fashioned culture in life?
Not really. And I'll say it again, I did love his passion for his art. It made me want to go paint. It made me want to reach out to other Black visual artists. It made me want to dive deeper into my passion. But I was just telling this to Jasmine the other day too. Out of all of the arts, probably musical arts is the last that I would be involved in. I feel like I've at least dallied in every single other type of art, even dance. I've dallied in that, it was a huge hobby of mine for a long time. And that could be because I played the flute in elementary and I had a traumatic experience where they hired this crazy ass teacher. He was a white male. I don't know if that's significant or not. if it played a role in it. But we were in the 4th grade and we used to have to do our practices during recess. So after we ate lunch, when everybody else went out to recess, the people in the orchestra went and played their instrument. So we were playing out the flute, having a good time, and somebody missed a note. A 4th grader missed a note, and this crazy man picked up the music stand and threw it at us. And I never went back. I would go to recess after that. He would come out and look for me and I would hide. And he was there for maybe 2 weeks after that before he got fired. But yeah, I did not want to play any instruments after that. So,
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So a long way to answer your story. No, I did not want to get more involved in the musical arts. But what about you? Is that the experience you had?
No, I've always had an interest of wanting to go see something in person eventually, but it didn't like persuade me to do it any sooner or later, just like when I can, you know?
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Like I've gone and seen orchestras. I like to go and like to the like orchestra and listen to them play.
Hmm.
Um, I thought you meant doing it myself. Like, no, no,
Nah.
thank you.
Hmm.
Unless it's piano, I would love to learn the piano.
Ooh,
But
yeah.
yeah, I can see myself going to a concert again. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just like, just learning a little bit more about it, just like seeing what the scene is like, not necessarily having to be a part of it, but, see what's going on over there.
So, is this a book that you would recommend to somebody? And if so, who would you recommend it to?
I don't think I would recommend it to be honest. Like, I like how it was written. It was written well, but I just feel like the amount of things that Black people go through constantly, especially right now, I wouldn't want someone to have to read so much traumatic when they're supposed to be escaping into another reality. You know what I mean? I
I
don't think
feel
it
like,
was worth it or the payoff. You know?
yeah. I don't think I would recommend this to like a person like you because I know that you use reading as a like form of escapism. But I know some people read it and they like to see life reflected back at them. Like I have friends who love reading sad books, period, which I don't get because if I'm crying, something went wrong. You know,
Yeah.
like this was never the plan. Like I'm not trying to make myself sad or
Hmm.
scared or like any of those other negative emotions, but some people do like it. So I think you have to know who you're recommending it to. Like I would definitely recommend this to my like friends who were in the orchestra like heavy in high school and who like to read. Because I again I do think it was well written. If someone asked me for a thriller recommendation, I probably wouldn't recommend this. Like I feel like it was kind of misclassified in genre, and I just picked it up from Goodreads, so it could be that the author didn't intend this to be placed under the thriller genre, but that's the main genre there. But yeah, I don't think I would recommend this and say, "Hey, this is a great thriller." It's a good mystery. It's a good
Mm,
whodunit.
is
So
it?
if I were giving this out and saying, "Hey, this is a good mystery that like
Yeah.
goes into the music world and it has black characters and talks about that experience as a black character going through like this prestigious music competition," yes, I would say it's a good mystery about that story.
I mean, I don't know because I feel like even the black characters were kind of caricatures. There's awful, and the white people were awful. I feel like everyone was awful in this book.
And that's kind of how it is with murder mysteries when I think about it.
Yeah.
Like everybody's kind of one dimensional, and it's done that way on purpose so that it's hard to see who the actual murderer is, or in this case, who the thief was, I guess.
I guess that
So
makes sense.
I think that's
Yeah.
part of the genre of mysteries and
I mean,
character
I'm just used
development.
to with mysteries. I'm just used to Scooby Doo. Murder She Wrote. People you actually like.
Yeah. All
But I
right.
guess
So
that's
I
me.
gave this book. Huh?
Hmm. No, you're right. You're right. Go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I gave this book a 3.5, and I don't think I will change it. Again, I think it's a good book for some people. I didn't necessarily not enjoy myself reading it. There was a lot of like frustration. I felt very like sad for this kid who I thought he was great through the whole thing. I didn't have a problem with this character, even though I thought he was believable because he had his flaws as well, being awkward and, just trying to figure out the world. I thought he was a very well written character. I felt bad for him that he didn't have a lot of support.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like he grew up well still, like, he stood up for himself when he needed to, which I loved. Um, there are a lot of good things about this book. Like I said, his passion for music sparked my passion for painting. Like, or not sparked, but reignited, I guess. So, yeah, I do think it was well written. I think it's a good book for some people, but I just couldn't connect with, like, this violin is so expensive and it's like he was so stressed. I felt so bad for him the whole time that he found this passion and like not once did he have a moment where he could just enjoy it. It
Hmm.
seemed like he was always going through something that was putting like obstacles in his way
Hmm.
until he won that silver medalist and like found his violin. It seemed like it was pretty smooth after that, but who knows what he was going through because it was like anyway, years later, epilogue. But I hope for him that it was a lot smoother. Like he said, he was just touring around. So yeah, hopefully he found his peace then. That was a long rant to say. I would recommend it, but to probably a very select few people that I think would appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would you change your rating?
My personal rating, if it's a story for me, I'm gonna keep it at the 2. But if I'm recommending to somebody who likes music, who likes thrillers like that, and doesn't mind the racism and things like that in the story, I'll give it a 4. So I'm like, oh, if you're into it, it's a good 4. But for me personally, for my taste, I'm still giving it a 2.
Okay, so this conversation, I think we can wrap it up. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next book, which is Let's Play White by Kezia Burke.
Pretty name.
So synopsis, right? All right, here's the synopsis, guys. White brings with it dreams of respect, of wealth, of simply being treated as a human being. It's the one thing Walter will never be. But what if he could play white the way so many others seem to do? Would it bring him privilege or simply deny the pain? The title story in this collection asks those questions and then moves on to challenge notions of race, privilege, personal choice, and even life and death with equal vigor. From the spectrum spanning despair and hope in what she saw when they flew away to the stark weave of personal struggles in Chocolate Park, Let's Play White speaks with the voices of the overlooked and the unheard. All right, so that's our book for next week. It sounds like it is going to be very race heavy again, so probably not up your alley, but we will have a special guest who actually requested this book next week, and we'll let it be a surprise on who that is.
All right. That sounds awesome.
All right, so Joy,
I mean, yeah.
You seem stressed already.
I am. I'm so stressed, but I'm excited.
Well, I think we have a romance after that, so it'll be very light, hopefully. And guys, if you ever want to read along with us and know what we're going to read before we're reading it, we also have our whole schedule of books that we're going to read for the season up on our website, blackgirlreads.com. So go there and check it out if you want to know what's coming up. All right, Joy, do you want to tell us where? Do you want to tell them where they can find us?
I do. On TikTok and Twitter, you can find us at BLK Girl Reads Pod. And that's TikTok and Twitter only, BLK Girl Reads Pod. On Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, you can find us on BLK Girl Reads Podcast. Just a little extra words, but you got it.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to us this time and have a good day. Bye.